Now, before we take things forward, I just want to recap, right, what we discussed in our previous session, right? So we are in a very what do you call, in a good position right now, right? We have come to the middle of lesson number 1. Okay, so very specifically last week we started discussing about the evolution of business, right? We started discussing about the evolution of business, right? How businesses started off, right? How businesses started off. So uh, at the very beginning, we started off discussing about the self-sufficient economy, right? So in a self-sufficient economy, what happened? Individuals, they started satisfying their own needs and wants by themselves, right? 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 So that is called direct production, right? They were growing vegetables, they were growing fruits, right, in their home garden for their own consumption, right? So that was direct production. As a result of direct production, students, what happened? People started doing certain activities rather than doing every single activity, right? If you were growing vegetables, you fully focused on growing vegetables, right? If you were focusing on catching fish and feeding, then you were fully focused on that. So as a result of it, as a result of this direct production, right, people started specializing, right? People started specializing, right? Because they were very much focused on doing one particular activity, right? Started specializing. Then, as a result of personal specialization, what happened, right? It went on for a period of time, and what happened? People started getting an excess supply of goods, right? Surplus production, right? If you were growing vegetables, right, it came to a point where you got the harvest of your vegetables, which is more than your consumption, right? Which is more than your consumption, excess production, because you were fully focused on doing that continuously, right? So as a result of it, what happened, right? People started exchanging these excess supply of things that they have with one another. That's the beginning of barter system. That's the beginning of barter system, right? So barter system was a very interesting system at the very beginning. So as a result of barter system, trade came into the picture, and indirect production came into the picture, which means people started because all this time people were focusing on producing for your own consumption to satisfy your needs and wants. That is their production. But now people focused on producing to the market. What market wants? What is the demand of the market? Whether they want vegetables, then you kept on producing vegetables. Whether they want fruits, you kept on producing fruits. Indirect production came into the picture, right? And then barter system actually didn't. I mean, uh, even though that system was very useful at the very beginning, there were quite a lot of problems. So we discussed very specifically the drawbacks of the barter system, right? What were the problem? There were no common measure of value. And then another issue is double coincidence of wants. If someone wants to satisfy their own needs and wants, both the parties should be able to provide goods at the same time, right? Okay, so you know that double coincidence of wants. So as a result of it, people wanted a common measure of value, so that they started using money. And then we discussed the evolution of money also, where they started with uh, materials, and then later on they use metal money, notes and coins, right? Now we have other mechanisms like electronic payment methods as well. So we discussed about that. And then after that, another significant scenario that took place, that revolutionized the business industry, was the industrial revolution, right? So during the Industrial Revolution, there were lots of innovations which came into the picture. Small cottage industries were converted into large industries, right? Right. So as a result of it, there were lots of changes that happened to the business world. So that's what we discussed last week, students, about the evolution of business, about the evolution of business, right? Now, just right now, today we are gonna talk about the new era of business, which is called the information era, right? Right. So now, when we are doing business, we are doing business in this era, information era. අපි කියනවා සාමාන්‍ය සිංහලෙන් කියලා කියනවා තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණ යුගය කියලා කියනවා. Right? තොරතුරු තාක්ෂණ යුගය. Right? Right? එහෙම නැත්නම් in other terms, information era could be known in different phrases, right? Like computer age, digital age, silicon age, new media age, or media age, right? Any word could be used to define information era, right? Information era, right? Now, students, what is this information era, right? What is this information era, right? This is where we'll read. Began in the 20th century, right? Began in the mid 20th century. It is characterized by a rapid shift from traditional industries as established during industrial revolution to economy centered information technology, right? Now, students, when there were businesses in the industrial revolution era, right? Those businesses were mass scale businesses, right? Steel businesses, different types of manufacturing businesses, right? But at that time, information technology was not developed, right? Information technology was not a thing that was developed at that time, right? But later on in the mid 20th century, right? Right, computers came into the world, right? And businesses started using these computers, right? Not only computers, different types of technologies they started using for their business organizations, right? Then internet came into the picture, right? Okay, internet, right? So likewise, students, information era actually influenced the way that you did business, and it has evolved throughout the period. And now when we are doing business, we rely heavily on information technology, it, and all the other uh, information technological equipments, right? We need those things, right, when we are doing business now, right? Otherwise you'll be taken as a traditional business and it will be very hard for you to survive without information technology. Okay, right. So students, let's discuss about this information era, right? Now, very specifically, when it comes to the information era, right? I told you, business organizations are using information technology to do their day-to-day operations, to handle their operations, right? Okay. So first, we'll look at businesses. First, we'll look at businesses who are into electronic commerce. Very important. Very important. Okay. Right. Now, what is electronic commerce? How many of you all have heard of electronic commerce? Right. Electronic commerce. How many of you all have heard of electronic commerce? Right. Right. Either we can call it as e-commerce, right? Electronic commerce or e-commerce, right? What do you mean by electronic commerce, right? First, let's write the definition. Okay. First, let's write the definition. I have given you a small blank here. We can write the definition. Right. You can write when buying and selling activities are conducted, when buying and selling activities are conducted, right? When when buying and selling activities, buying and selling activities are conducted, are conducted through internet, right? Right? Through internet, right? So since we are in the information era, I told you internet has influenced how businesses are operating, right? Right? So e-commerce means, students, when buying and selling activities are conducted through internet, right? Right? Now, how many of y'all have done buying and selling activities through the internet, right? Right? So after that, I will give you some examples, right? 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 How many of y'all? Right? Right? Exactly, right? I mean, these days, all of us are buying and selling certain goods, right? Through internet, right? What are the examples that we can use, right? What are the examples? Like what? eBay, eBay, Amazon, right? Right? What else we have? Now, these days, it's very popular. We have Temu, right? Temu. And in Sri Lanka, we have Kapruka, Kapruka, right? Right? So students, all these business organizations which I mentioned, right? Those are connected with e-commerce, right? Where they do buy and sell, or they do conduct buying and selling activities through internet, right? If you want to buy, let's say, some clothes, right? If you want to buy some clothes, right? You might log into the Temu app or eBay app, right? And then you will, there's a search bar for you to type. You type whatever you want. It's a blue color T-shirt or a white color shirt, whatever you type, right? And then you place the order, right? Where you have different types of suppliers on the dashboard. So you select the most preferred supplier. You can read the reviews and everything, and then you decide from whom to buy, and then you place the order, and then you'll get the order to your doorsteps, right, within another couple of weeks. So this is called electronic commerce, where in here buying and selling activities are conducted. Very important, right? Very important, because later we are going to learn about another concept called electronic business that is slightly different from this. So make sure that you highlight this, right? Businesses who are into electronic commerce, they do conduct only buying and selling activities through internet, right? Right? Only online transactions. Understood? Understood? Right? Now this is possible because of the information era, where we have infrastructure facilities. Our internet has been developed now, right? We are using computers, digital equipments are there. So this has become possible because of internet, because of internet. Okay, right? Okay, just take 1 minute and just reconcile it, and after that we'll move on to the advantages of e-commerce. Now students, let's look at what are the advantages of e-commerce to to a consumer, right? Right? So e-commerce means buying and selling through internet, right? So as a consumer, what are the advantages that you can obtain? Now these areas are, students, highly tested in your exam, okay? Because these are very practical areas actually, highly tested in your examination, right? So in that case, sometimes when you are answering questions, right? Sometimes when you are answering questions, you got to think practically also. Business studies is a subject like that. You don't have to by heart everything, okay? Right? You don't have to by heart everything, right? You just need to think as a practical person, and you can find lot of answers. Okay, right? Now, just think from your end, where you are buying or selling, through internet, through platforms like eBay, Amazon, Kapruka, whatever, Temu, right? What are the advantages that you have? The first advantage is, students, convenience. That is the first advantage that you can get. Convenience, right? Convenience. So you can write with me, convenience, right? 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 පහසුවක්. Like අපිට ලොකු පහසුවක් තියෙනවා. Why convenient? Because, students, if you take these e-commerce platforms, right? Is there a opening time and a closing time just like a physical shop? No, right? Now, if you are going for a physical shop, let's say you want to buy some clothes and you want to go to, let's say, Cool Planet, right? Or whatever the shop that you want. There is an opening time which is around 9 o'clock in the morning and it closes around 8 o'clock in the evening. So within that time, you got to shop. But when it comes to e-commerce platforms, those are always open 24/7, all 365 days. Right? It's not a physical place, it's just a matter of logging into the website and ordering what you want. And also the other thing is, once you place the order, those will be delivered to your doorstep. Right? Right? You place the order. So most of these goods are actually from other countries like China, Japan, Vietnam, Taiwan, whatever the country. It will be there in your doorsteps within just few weeks of time. Look how convenient it is to the customer, right? Look how convenient it is to the customers, right? Okay. Then number two, right? Now these are all you know, right? These are not rocket science, right? These are very, very what do you call, easy stuff. Okay, right? Number two is wider selection, right? Wider selection, right? Right? Okay. What do you mean by wider selection, students? Right? Now, I hope all of you all have been into different platforms, right? 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 So, uh, so let me take you through one of the platforms. Like then you can have a good understanding about it, right? Wider selection, right? Wider selections, right? Let's say you want to buy. Let's say you want to buy. You want to buy shoes. You want to buy shoes. You want to buy shoes, right? Okay. Right. Just click. Right. I hope you all can see my screen. Shoes. Shoes for men. Now it will give you different types of shoes. Here you go, students. Wider selection. This is called wider selection, right? Our second point, right? Right. Right. So you have what do you call black shoes, white shoes, right? Different styles, sneakers, right? Right. Here you go. Right. 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 For different occasions, you have different types of shoes that you can choose from, right? So this is another advantage through e-commerce for a consumer. Wider selection from different types of suppliers. They will offer different types of products based on the requirement. Understood? Right. Okay. So we'll move on to the note once again, right? So that's why we can learn business studies very practically, right? We can learn business studies very practically, right? Wider selection, right? Okay. Then what is number three, right? What is number three? Number three, cost savings, right? One of the other advantages of e-commerce is where, students, you would be able to find products at lower prices, right? Right? At lower prices, right? So sometimes if you want to buy a pair of shoes, you go to the nearest what do you call branch where they sell shoes physically. Sometimes the prices are very expensive. It's very high, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. But the same type of shoe could be bought through an e-commerce platform at a very cheaper price, like 50% off. Okay, right? So online prices are tend to be sort of lower, right? So it saves a lot of money on what? Now, if you want to buy something from an e-commerce platform, right? There is no traveling cost, there is no parking cost, right? Your time will be saved a lot. No, isn't it? If you're going to a physical store, you need to get dressed and then you have to either take a taxi or you have to pump some fuel to your own vehicle, you have to go. So it will incur some cost, but those types of costs are also eliminated when you are using an e-commerce platform to shop for yourself. Right? It's just a matter of logging into the particular website, like we did earlier. Okay, cost savings. Number 4. What is number 4? Right now, these things is very easy. Yeah? Access reviews and information. Access reviews and information. Access reviews and information. Right now, students, whenever you are going to buy a product, right now there are different types of suppliers offering different types of products. No? So for each type of product, right, a specification is given, ne, about the product. Ne? So let's go to our website and see. Let's go to Temu and see, right, how customer information is given, right, how reviews are given, right. So let's see. Let's choose a product and see, just for the time being. Okay, we want to buy this. Okay, here you go. This gives all the information, right? So the colors of it, right? You can choose whatever the color that you want, right? Right, here you go, right? Different colors are there, right? Okay, and then they have given a description about the product, right? Casual shoes, lightweight, right? Slip resistant, right? This is perfect for athletic footwear information. And they have given the prices, right? Right. Here I told you, right? Earlier cost savings. Can you remember? Right. Earlier it was sold at 10,805. Now there's a discount, 50% discount. Right. There you go. Right. Right. Earlier we discussed in our previous point. Right. Right. So you can choose the sizes. Right. And here you go, the reviews. Here, reviews. Can you see the reviews? You have 5 stars. So they say comfortable sneakers, very good. Got 2 pairs, black and brown, very comfortable, durable, good value for money. These are all what? Reviews, right? So if you go to an e-commerce platform, student, as a consumer, you can check whether this product is a reliable one, right? Right? Because we can check that through these particular feedback, which is been reviews, which is being given by the customers. Understood, right? Okay, so that's the point which I wanted to discuss, right? Which I wanted to discuss here, right? Okay. Okay, right. Right. Okay, we can go up. Right. So customers can read reviews and detailed product information before buying. Okay. Next point, right? What is the next point? Right? Next point you can write, the 5th point you can write, students, easy and secure payment option. Easy and secure payment options. Payment options. Right? Okay. Right? So now you don't have to go through the hassle of paying physical cash. Right? You have a lot of options to make your payments. You can use your debit cards, you can use your credit cards, right? You can use your e-wallets, right? Different types of e-mechanisms could be used to make your payments online, and it is secure as well. Understood? Right. So students, these are the advantages that as a consumer, that what we can get through e-commerce platforms. Right, e-commerce is possible because of the information technology, because of the development in information technology. Okay, right. Okay, so we'll straight away go to the flip side of the coin. Right now, if you are a businessman, who is doing e-commerce activities. Now remember very well, okay, e-commerce means buying and selling, buying and selling only, okay, right, okay. So if you are a business who is into e-commerce activities, what are the advantages that you can obtain? What are the advantages that you can obtain? Let's look at it. Okay, right. So students, if you all have any questions, kindly let me know. And if you all have any questions, kindly let me know. Okay, right. Okay. So up to now, hope you all understood everything. Can I get a small feedback? Right. Physical students, okay. Understood everything? Okay. What about online students? Can I get a big heart or a big thumbs up? Hello, online students. Evin, are you there? Yes, you understood, right? Okay, right. Okay, fine. All right, thank you very much. Right. Now, students, let's look at what are the advantages of e-commerce to a business. Right, okay, fine. The first one is called increased market reach. So you can write with me, increased market reach, right? Increased market reach, right? Now, students, as a result of conducting e-commerce activities, right, you get the opportunity as a business organization, you get the opportunity to sell your products to different customers all across the globe, right? Right. You don't have to limit your market only to Sri Lankan customers, right? You can sell to Chinese people, you can sell to people in Vietnam, Australia, whatever. So you get more market reach. There is no limitation for you, right? Right. Because every country, every citizen is connected with the use of internet, right? So it will increase market reach. It will increase market reach. Okay, right? So that's why we also as customers, if you go to these e-commerce platforms, we can buy products from different countries. Okay, right? Increased market reach. Number two, right? Think as a businessman. Think as a businessman. That's why you got to train yourself. Okay. Number two, when you're doing a business, right, which is into e-commerce, right? The second advantage is your operating cost will be lower. Lower operating cost. Lower operating cost. Right? Why? Because students just think that you are selling shoes. Right? You are selling shoes. Now, if you want to sell shoes, if you want to have a physical store, right? First, you have to build it. No, a small showroom. You have to build it, right? It will incur you a huge investment. Then you have to put air condition to it, right? Water, utilities, all those things needs to be taken, expensive, right? Right. And also when you are operating the showroom, right, you have employees working for you, so you need to pay salaries to them, electricity cost, right? So a lot of cost will be incurred when you are having a physical shop to sell your shoes. But if you are selling your shoes online with the use of internet, do you really need to have a physical showroom? No, right? 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 No one's going to come and visit you. No customer is going to come and visit you. Only thing is you got to take some pictures and upload it to the website. Then customers will buy. So lower operating cost. Right? No rent. Now some people they are on rent, right? If you don't have money to build a showroom, then you go and rent a particular showroom. So rent is also very high, like 100,000, 200,000 in a good place, right? Per month, expensive. All those things are reduced. All those things are reduced now. Understood, right? Okay. Then third advantage for the business, right? Third advantage for the business, scalability, right? scalability, right? Scalability. What do you mean by scalability? අපි කියන සිංහලෙන් කියන අපිට මේක ව්‍යාප්ත කරන්න පුළුවන්, grow කරන්න පුළුවන් business එක. Right? So when you're doing e-commerce, we're not doing business. When you are doing business through an e-commerce platform, students, it's very easy for you to grow your business, right? Because through the business you'll be able to handle large set of customers. You'll be able to meet large set of customers, right? So your sales will go up quickly, right? And on the other side, your cost might be very less, right? So you can very easily scale your business to the next level, right? You can scale your business to the next level. You can expand your business to other countries as well. Okay, right? Number 3. Number 4. What is number 4? Better inventory management. Better inventory management. That's another advantage when you are doing e-commerce businesses. Better inventory management, right? Okay. So students, now when you are doing these online businesses, you don't have to maintain millions of stocks, right, in your place, right. It's just a matter of maintaining a limited amount of stocks. Whenever a customer places the order, then you can arrange the order accordingly, right. But when you're doing physical, it can't be done. When you're doing physical, customers are coming into your showroom. We don't know whether they will buy or not. We have to maintain the stocks, right? So that's the difference. In here, you don't have to maintain much stocks actually. Right? You can maintain limited amount of stocks. And then when the customer places the order, you can arrange the stocks and arrange the order, right? So better inventory management. This will reduce waste or shortages, right? Sometimes certain goods, after some time, they will exploit, no, expire වෙනවා කියලා කියන්නේ නේද? So after sometimes you cannot use. So if you are maintaining millions of stocks and then if they exploit, it's a huge cost for you. But it is reduced when you are doing these online businesses. Understood? Right. Number 5. Okay. The next advantage for a businessman, higher sales opportunities, higher sales. Why higher sales, students? I told you earlier also, we discussed, right? You're not limited to a particular area. You're not limited only to Colombo. You're not limited only to Sri Lanka. You have customers from all across the globe, from different countries. And also, students, your websites are open 24/7 or 365 days. Any customer could buy anything at any time whenever they want. It could be early in the morning, middle of the day, right in the night, right? So that will bring you more sales, right? That will bring you more sales, because just assume that if you have a physical store, there's only limited time for the customers to come and buy, right? Morning 8 o'clock, morning 9 o'clock to evening 8 o'clock. That's it. After that, no sales. Again, the next day. But in here, all 24/7, we are open. We are open for sales. So more sales will come. More sales will come not only from your local country, but also from foreign countries as well, right? So students, these are the advantages that a businessman and also a customer could obtain through e-commerce businesses. But I want to remind you once again, e-commerce means what? Buying and selling only. Using internet, and we do buying and selling activities only. Very important. Very important. That's the difference. Right? Right? So in that case, just take 1 minute and just reconcile. After that, we'll go to the bigger concept, which is called electronic business. Before we move on there, take 1 minute and read about e-commerce. Go ahead. And students, if you all have any clarifications, if you have any questions, please do let me know now. Okay? Have any questions? Physical students, is everything okay? Superb, right? Okay. What about my online students? Is everything clear? Crystal clear? Right. Okay, fine. Okay, good. Right. Okay, students. Now Now we'll move on to a bigger concept. Right now, what are we talking? We are talking the influence of information era or the information technology on businesses. That's what we are discussing now in different periods of time. So now at the moment we are in the information era, right? Where businesses use internet, right? Other technological platforms to conduct their businesses compared to the traditional uh, businesses, right? Okay. So now we are going to move on to a bigger concept compared to e-commerce, right? Okay. Right. Now we are going to talk about electronic business, right? Now we are going to talk about electronic business, right? Right. Now students, electronic business, right, is much of a bigger concept compared to electronic commerce. Lot of students actually confuse these two concepts, right? Electronic commerce, listen to me very carefully. Okay. Electronic commerce means, I told you, as a business organization, you are conducting only buying and selling activities with the use of internet, right? Only online transactions only, right? Okay. That is electronic commerce. But if you take electronic business, students, this is where business organizations will be conducting all the business activities, all the business activities with the use of internet. Not only buying and selling activities, but all the business activities through internet, right? Like what? As an example, right? Right, as an example, if you're doing a business, right? Right. Number one, as you said, right? We do buy and sell through internet. So that part is covered in e-commerce. On top of that, students, some organizations they do handle customer data through different types of systems. No, right, right. Or else the same organizations could be dealing with their suppliers, communicating with their suppliers with the use of different systems, right? Different softwares with the use of internet, no emails, no, right? Emails, all those things are there, right? Dealing with the suppliers with the use of internet, right? And also as an organization, you do advertising, right? On social media, right? You do advertising on social media, so that is possible with the use of internet, right? Right. Okay. Right. And also on top of that, uh, some organizations they will give you online transaction facilities through internet, right? Okay. Right. And some organizations they handle their entire inventory system with the use of internet. With the use of internet, right, the whole inventory system is connected, right? So from anywhere in the world you can manage your inventories, right? Right, you can manage your inventories, right? All are done with the use of internet, right? All are done with the use of internet, right? So can you see, students, electronic business is not only about buying and selling with the use of internet, but they do conduct all the activities through internet. And another example is, right, some organizations employees are working remotely, no, right, from different countries, from different places, but they are connected to the operations of the business with the use of internet, right? So likewise, electronic business is that conducting all the business activities with the use of internet. But e-commerce is conducting only buying and selling activities only. That's the difference. That's the difference. Understood? Right. So you can write a small definition here, students. You can write a small definition. I will read it out. Right. You can write all the activities. Right. You can write it here. Right. Right. You can write it here. All the activities which belongs to a business, all the activities which belongs to a business conducted by the use of internet. All the activities which belongs to the business are conducted by the use of internet is known as electronic business. Is known as electronic business. Okay, right, right. So you can write different business activities that you do with the use of internet. You can write these activities, right? You can write activities such as the second sentence you can write activities such as online store setup, where some organizations they have a separate website. In that website, they have all of their products displayed, right? Online store setup, right? Then handling custom orders through systems. Handling custom orders through systems, right? The second activity, handling custom orders through system, right? Right? Handling custom orders through systems. Then the third activity you can write buying and selling products through internet, buying and selling products through internet. That is of course e-commerce, no? Right, right. Just one activity, buying and selling through internet. Then you can write online transactions, online transactions, online transactions. Then you can write inventory management through systems, inventory management through systems. I told you, right? You can log into the system and have a look how much of inventory that is there in your inventory right now, right? So inventory management systems are there. Then you can write social media marketing, social media marketing, social media marketing, social media marketing. Next point you can write employees working remotely, employees working remotely with the use of internet, right? So I'm giving you the business activities that businesses are conducting with the use of internet. Okay, right? Okay, right. All right. Okay. So students, as an example for electronic business, uh, there's a there's a there's a known uh, world recognized electronic business called Alibaba, right? Alibaba, right? Right. I hope you all have heard. How many of you all have heard of the platform called Alibaba? Yes, exactly, right. So Alibaba is taken as one of the one of the one of the leading electronic businesses where they do conduct all business activities through internet, right? Right. So if you all are not much aware about it, I'll show you the website only, right? Okay, right, right. So let's go to uh here you go, right, right. So this is right, right. So it has everything, right? You have products for customers. If you are a manufacturer, right, you can go through this website and sell it, right? You can connect with different buyers, sellers, right? And also they have a separate what do you call here, uh, shipping arrangements you can arrange, right? Customizations, right? Right. So everything is here. Alibaba is one of the leading platforms that I could use for e-businesses, right? Okay. So you know these things, right? You can, whenever you are free, you can go and have a look, right? All these things are here, right? Right. Everything is there, right? Okay. Fine. Right. Okay. Right. So you can write the example right here, right? Alibaba, right? Right. Okay. Right. So students, now I want to, I want to emphasize, right? Now you know the differences between e-commerce and e-business, right? Okay. Right. Now I'm going to ask you a small question. I'm going to ask you a small question, right? What is the more wider concept? What is the more bigger concept? Is it e-commerce or is it e-business? I'm asking, what is the most wider business concept? Is it e-business or e-commerce? What can you say? What can you say, students? I'm getting some answers. Yes, okay, very good, very good. Online students, what is the more wider concept? Is it e-business or e-commerce? What do you say? Hmm? Online students? Exactly, e-business, definitely. Very good. So now you have understood the difference between e-commerce and e-business, right? So e-commerce is only focusing on buying and selling activities only. That is a small subset. But in a business, you have more activities more than buying and selling. Like I explained you in e-business, right? So in e-business, you do all the business activities with the use of internet. And if you look at e-commerce, it is just a small subset of e-business, right? That's why you have a bigger circle here. This is the bigger circle, right? Inside this bigger circle, you have e-commerce, which shows that e-commerce is a subset of e-business, right? Okay. So in the examination, they might ask, right? Explain very clearly e-commerce is a subset of e-business. Then you can draw this and then you can write the answers which I gave you. Okay, right. Okay, now you all understood, you have understood the concept. Okay, right. Right. Okay. Now, students, this is also another popular question that is tested in your exam. Because I'm just taking a bit of time, because if you look at your past papers, they have tested a lot from e-commerce and e-business. Okay, right? They have tested. There could be at least one question from this area. Okay, so in that case, you got to have that understanding. Okay, right. Okay, why or reasons for the popularity of electronic commerce or e-business? Okay, why e-commerce and e-business is popular, right? Right. Even I would also love to start an e-business or an e-commerce platform. Why? What is the reason? Just think as a practical person, right? Let's think as a practical person, right? So we can write the answers, right? Right. The first answer I have given you, speeding up of business activities, right? Speeding up of business activities, right? Now, students, if you have an e-commerce platform or an e-business platform, right? You can directly talk with your customers quickly, right? There are communication platforms, right? Through certain what do you call, messaging apps, you'll be able to talk to your customers. You'll be able to quickly arrange the order, right? So everything is very quick, and you can get the payments very quickly, right? 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 So speeding up of business activities, right? So you can write the answer. Online transactions are very fast. You can write the answer for the blank which I have given, right? Online transactions are very fast. Second line you can write orders, comma payments, orders, comma payments, and communication and communication happens quickly, saving time for both business and customers. Saving time for both business and customers. Right. This is the first point. Right. And this is the second point. Minimizing operational and inventory cost. Okay. Right now, I told you earlier also, when you're running an e-commerce or e-business platform, right? Operational wise, you are reducing so much of cost, right? Because there is no rent, there is no staff, paperwork is very less, you don't have to maintain huge inventories with stocks, so that will reduce your cost a lot, right? You can write, right? Businesses spend less money, businesses spend less money, right? Businesses spend less money on rent, staff, paperwork, and storage, right? You don't have to go to a place. Even in you, if you have a small room at your home, you can start this business, right? Simple as that. Okay, right? Businesses spend less money on rent, staff, paperwork, and storage, right? So let's move on to the third point. Third point, emergence of global market, right? When you're doing an e-commerce business or an e-business, you will be able to reach customers, right? Not only in your area, not only in your country, but from other countries as well. Okay, right? So it will increase our global span. You can write, businesses can sell, businesses, for this third point, you can write, businesses can sell, businesses can sell products to customers, businesses can sell products to customers all over the world using the internet. All, all over the world using the internet. Second point, you can write, they are not limited to, they are not limited to one country or area. One country or area. That's the third point. Okay, right. Students, is everything okay? Do you all need more time to write? Or shall we move on to the next point? All right, okay, thank you. Very good. All right, okay. So whenever you have a problem, quickly let me know. Okay, right, okay. Physical students, all good? Superb, right. All right. The fourth point, saving customer time and energy, right? Saving customers time and energy, right? So you can, I mean, you don't have to go through the hassle of getting dressed up, right? Driving your vehicle or going in a taxi or a tuk or in a bus to a store, buying clothes. No, no, that is not there. Your entire time and energy is saved. You just need to have a smartphone or a laptop and internet, then you can shop whatever you want, right? Right. And of course, you need to have money also, right? Okay. Right. So you can write, customers can shop anytime. Customers can shop anytime, right? Even in the middle of the night, if you feel like shopping, of course you can do, right? Customers can shop anytime from home, right? From home without traveling to stores. You don't have to travel to any store. So it's convenient. It's convenient. Okay. Customers can shop anytime from home without traveling to stores. Right. Then the fifth point, business information exchange without documents. Right. Yes. Right. Now, when you're doing these online transactions, I mean, you don't use a lot of physical documents, right? Everything, the communication will be done through your email. No, whenever you place the order, your order details will be emailed to you automatically, right? So or else there could be online forms where you can fill. On Facebook, I have seen that whenever you see a product which is which is being sold, you can fill your details, your name, your contact number, and your address. The form will be filled and you will need to submit. So all e-platforms. Then you have digital invoices, no physical documents, right? So business information exchange without documents, that's very easy, right? Very easy. Everything will be sent to your email, right? And also, if you are trading through platforms like eBay, Temu, you can create your own account. So to that account, you can connect an email, and then everything will be there in your account. The summary, the history, or what you have done, what you have traded, everything will be there. I hope most of you all will have an account. I have accounts in different platforms. Okay, right. Okay, fine. You can write an answer for these students, right? Information is shared electronically. Information is shared electronically, open brackets. Information is shared electronically, open brackets. You can write emails. You can write emails, online forms, emails, online forms, digital invoices, right? Digital invoices, close brackets, which reduces paper use, which reduces paper use, which reduces paper use. All right. Right. Okay. Right. So students, that's about e-commerce and e-business, right? Now I hope you all can specifically understand the differences between e-commerce and e-business. Okay, understood, right? So this is one of the areas that will be highly tested in your examination. So in that case, please give your fullest attention to these areas. Okay, right. Okay, students, just take 1 minute. Just take 1 minute and reconcile what we have learned as of now. After that, we'll move on to the final part of evolution of business where we are going to talk about the new trends in business. Okay, right. So before we move on there, make sure that you take 1 minute and read it quickly. And if you all have any questions, students, please let me know. Okay, right. Go ahead. Okay, right. So is everything okay? Do you all have any questions before we move on to the new trends in business? Any questions? Right. Okay. All good. Thank you very much. Okay. Fine. Good. Right. Okay. So students, now we are talking about business and we are talking about modern business, right? Now we are talking about the evolution of business. No. So we started off from the initial stages, right? Barter system, right? Then usage of money, industrial revolution. Now it's about information era. Now businesses are into electronic commerce and e-businesses, right? So we are in the modern era now. I don't know in the future how the business are going to work, right? It's going to be pretty interesting to talk about as well because technology is actually continuously developing, right? I don't know what will happen in the future, right? Okay, so students, now let's talk about what are the new trends in business, right? Compared to old traditional way of doing business, right? Now businesses has changed drastically, right? Compared to the traditional way of doing business, nowadays businesses have changed drastically. Okay, so we are looking at those new trends. We are looking at those new trends in business. This is also another question which has been highly tested in your exam. Okay, right. Now, one of the trends in new business is expansion of globalization, right? Okay. What is globalization, students? Right? අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා ගෝලීයකරණය කියලා කියනවානේ. Right? ගෝලීයකරණය. What do you mean by globalization? Which means, students, nowadays, if you look at countries, right, countries are trying to connect with each other, right, in all aspects. When they are doing business, they are trying to be connected. When they are doing trade, they are trying to be connected, right? So, as a result of globalization, now the world has become very interdependent on one another. Interdependent on one another, right? It could be politically, it could be in trade wise, in business wise. Businesses are interdependent on each other, right? That is one of the new trends in business, right? Okay, expansion of globalization, right? So globalization has become possible because of internet, because of information technology, right? Right? Because information technology creates that infrastructure for countries to get along with each other, right? So information technology plays a key role in what do you call expanding globalization all across the globe, right? All across the globe. Okay, right. So uh, and the other thing is, for globalization, communication is important. Transportation, all those things are also important to keep the whole world connected to each other. Okay, right. So anyway, you can write a small explanation here. Globalization means, right? You can write a small explanation. Globalization means businesses operate worldwide. Businesses operate worldwide, not just in one country, right? Right. Then you can write companies can sell to international customers and buy material from other countries, right? Like like we buy Apple iPhones, no, right? So it's a US product, but we buy it, right? That's possible because of globalization, right? You send your tea to other countries, right? Sri Lankan tea, possible because of globalization, right? So companies can sell to international customers and buy materials from other countries, right? Right? Okay. So that's the first point, right? Then what is the second trend in business? Emergence of electronic business. This, of course, we discussed earlier. This, of course, we discussed earlier. Doing all business activities with the use of internet. You can write e-business uses the internet to run business activities, right? So earlier I gave you a list of things, right? You can connect it to here. Emergence of electronic business is also now a new trend, right? Now nowadays generation, no, Gen Z's, no, Gen Alpha, no, now, right? All of them are more into electronic businesses, right? Right? More into electronic businesses, right? Okay, right? Because it's very easy to start because lesser cost. Okay, right? Okay. Next one, using of electronic money. The third point, another trend in nowadays business, using of electronic money, right? Using of electronic money, right? Okay. Because now students, most of us, we don't carry cash, right? Physical cash. How many of you all carry physical cash, right? Yeah, you all do carry a purse, right? But you don't have much cash in your, you don't have much physical cash in your purse, right? Now, if you look at, I mean, if you look at from my perspective, I don't actually carry cash. I have only like 300 rupees, 500 rupees in my purse. The rest of the money is in my bank account. So I use cards. In most of the times, I use cards, credit cards, debit cards. Okay, using of electronic money. It's easy, right? It's easy, right? It's easy, right? So that's a newer that's another trend in business, right? So you can write electronic money is money. Electronic money is money used in digital form, right? Used in digital form instead of cash, right? So you can write debit cards, credit cards. So nowadays you have cryptocurrencies, no, right? So a lot of countries now they use cryptocurrency, right? Mostly the Gulf region countries they use cryptocurrency, right? You have crypto billionaires, no, right? Okay, so in Sri Lanka still that infrastructure is not there, but in the future we might have. But if you go to Gulf countries, you can buy certain things with cryptocurrency, okay, right? So you can write those examples, right? Then the fourth trend in business, concern for the environment. So we call it as green business also, right? Right? Right. So nowadays, students, if you look at businesses, right, they have changed their mindset a bit, right? Now they have a concern for the environment. Why? Now, if you look, the pollution rate is increasing, right? Sound pollution, water pollution, right? Air pollution, right? Right? And people cut trees, right? So there's a huge adverse impact on the environment. But nowadays, students, a lot of businesses, they have a concern for the environment because they know that if they harm the environment, then they will lose resources in the future. They will lose it because we get all these natural resources and we convert them into finished goods, right? So if you harm the environment, if you pollute the water, if you pollute air, how can you do business? Businesses will not be sustainable. For a business to be sustainable, you should first have a better environment, right? Understood, right? If you don't have a good environment, then how can you do business? You will not have enough resources for your business. So now students, a lot of business organizations, they are they have increased awareness of protecting the environment because they know that if we harm the environment, the sustainability of businesses will also go down. Okay, so that's why nowadays a lot of businesses they use renewable energy. No, it's a huge topic nowadays in Sri Lanka, also in other countries, right? We use a lot of renewable energy, right? Right, for production, for whatever, right? We use renewable energy, right? Wind, solar, right? To power up our machines and everything, right? Okay, right. And then a lot of organizations they are into recycling waste. They have certain projects to recycle the waste that that they dispose to the environment. They recycle it properly and they reuse it once again. Okay, right? Recycling, right? Very specifically, I came across a very nice article. So this was done by I think either Adidas or Nike. Exactly, I can't remember. I think it's Nike or Adidas, right? So they are using plastic waste, right? Now, if you go to the ocean, you have plastic waste in the ocean, no, right? That's a huge threat for the ocean environment, the biodiversity of the ocean, right? So uh, this company, right? I think it's either Nike or Adidas, right? Okay. What they did was they used this plastic waste in the oceans. They cleaned all the oceans and collected the plastic waste, and this plastic waste was converted to what? Fabric, right? From plastic waste, these plastic bottles and all those things were converted into fabric, and with the use of those fabric, they made their t-shirts, shoes, right? Shorts, all those things they made. Look how nice of that initiative. From one side, it'll reduce the plastic waste of the ocean, right? And also on the other side, right? For that company, it's a cost saving also because they are actually getting those what do you call plastic waste and converting them into fabric. It's low cost actually for them, right? So they have a separate technology for that, right? So nowadays, a lot of fabric companies they do that, right? They do that, right? So concern for the environment, right? So you can go and check on YouTube, right? right? The plastic waste campaign of Nike or Adidas, you can go and check, right? There's a nice video about it, right? And nowadays, I have seen a lot of companies where they sell these tea or coffee or what do you call these liquid drinks. They used to give them in plastic cups, right? Right? Plastic cups, right? Like Starbucks and all those things, right? So this plastic is actually harmful for the environment. Now they have converted them into paper cups, right? Paper cups. Even if you throw out, that won't harm the environment. Look how you nicely do green business because you have a concern for the environment. You have a concern for the environment, right? Because you know, as a business, the business will sustain only if the environment sustains. If not, it's over, right? Okay. So, answer number 5, another trend in business: concern for social responsibility. Concern for social responsibility, right? So, students, anyway, to discuss point 4 and 5, we have a separate lesson, that is lesson number 2. In that, we are talking about corporate social responsibility, green business, then sustainability. All those things we will be learning in lesson number 2, right? So don't worry, we will be touching upon all those things. I'll be showing you lots of videos. All those things will be there. All right. Okay. Concern for social responsibility means, students, that is also another topic that we'll be discussing in lesson number 2, but I will give you a small understanding, right? All this time, right? All this time, right? Right? Traditionally, businesses were highly focused only on making profits, right? Even if you harm the environment, that's fine. At the end of the day, if I'm making profits as a business, I'm happy. This was more of a selfish. This was more of a selfish thought, making profits at any cost, right? Making profits at any cost. You harm the environment, you harm the human beings, and then you make profits. Very selfish. But now the focus changed. Now it's not only about profit, students. On top of that, businesses are concerned for the society as well. Businesses are concerned for the society as well, the well-being of the society as well. The well-being of the society as well. That is called your responsibility for the society. You're not only making profits, from this profit, right, a portion will be used to help the society, right? So have you seen a lot of business organizations? They do a lot of projects like beach cleanups, and then they might go to a rural village, and from their own money they make water filtering systems. They go to rural villages, underprivileged areas, they make schools, libraries, IT facilities. I've seen lots of advertisements on television where businesses are doing this with the use of the profits that they have, right? So that is called concern for the social responsibility. As a business organization, you have a responsibility not only to make profits for your owners, but also from that profits, you can use some amount of money and to help the society. Because if the society is happy, in future, they will be the customers of your organization. They will remember your organization. Understood? Right. So that is called concern for social responsibility. Right? Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Concern for responsibility. Right. Right. So basically, when we are discussing in lesson number 3 about corporate social responsibility, we are talking about 3 pillars. Right. People, profit, and then planet. Right? People, profit, planet. Don't worry, we are going to discuss all these things, right? These are the 3 P's. The 3 P's. When we are doing business, we need to consider, right? The 3 P's. People, profit, planet. You have to make profits, enough profits, right? You have to make your employees happy, right? You have to make your society happy, and then at the end of the day, you have to make a better world. a better planet. Right? Okay, fine. So anyway, corporate social responsibility is another new trend in business. Students, you can write this, right? Businesses today, right? You can write businesses today care about society. Businesses today care about society, not just profits, not just profits, right? So you can write they support communities, they support communities, protect the environment, right? Protect the environment and act ethically. And act ethically. Ethically means acting in a good way, right? Right. So if you act as a responsible person, students, right, citizens will love your business. Citizens will love your brand. People will talk about your brand. They will say, oh, this particular company did a very nice project to our students in our village. They came and made a nice IT lab. They came and made a nice library. So people talk about it. So that will bring more trust to your brand. That will bring more reputation to your brand as well. Okay, isn't it a good thing? Yeah, it's a good thing, right? Okay, so you can write this improves business reputation. This improves business reputation and build public trust and build public trust and build public trust and build public trust. Okay, right. Okay, students. So these are the new trends of the business, and this marks the end of the evolution of business, right? So we started from baby steps of how businesses came into the picture, came into the surface, how businesses were transformed due to different scenarios that took place, barter system, usage of money, industrial revolution, information era, and now we are doing business and we discuss what are the new trends that nowadays businesses are focused on, right? So students, this is the end of evolution of business, right? Before we move on to the next part, take around 2 to 3 minutes, reconcile what you have. If you have any questions, you can ask me. After that, we'll move on to the next part. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, right. Okay, students. Now, do you all have any questions with reference to the evolution of business? Right? Do you all have any questions? The thing based on the things that we discussed. Physical students, how are you all? Is everything okay? Is everything all right? Understood? Crystal clear? All right. So can I get a small thumbs up from you all? All right. Okay. Good. How about my online students? Is everything okay? All right. So as usual, Evin sends me a lot of hearts, right? So thank you very much. So I'm happy that you have understood everything. All right, students, right. Okay. Now, students, now where are we heading? Now, students, we have discussed one of the main or important. We have completed discussing one of the highly tested areas in your first lesson. Okay. Next, we are going to move on to another important area, right? We are going to learn about the classification of business. We're going to learn about classification of business, right? Now, as young business studies students, as young students who are learning business studies, now you know what is a business. Now you know the foundation of business. You have learned it. You know the history of business, how businesses evolved, right? Now you know the fundamental areas of business. Since you know that, now we are going to steer up ahead to know how to classify businesses. How to classify businesses. Ne? Right? අපි කියන සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා ව්‍යාපාර වර්ගීකරණය කියලා කියනවා. Right? ව්‍යාපාර වර්ගීකරණය. ව්‍යාපාර වර්ගීකරණය. right? Okay, right. So students, when we are classifying businesses, right, very specifically, we will be using different types of bases. Ne? Different people will classify businesses in different ways, right? Right. So it's subjective, no? So in that case, students, we need to have different types of bases to classify businesses. කියන්නේ ව්‍යාපාර වර්ගීකරණය කරන්න යම්කිසි සාධක පදනම් කරගන්න ඕනේ. Right? මොකක් මතද ඔයා මේ ව්‍යාපාරය වර්ගීකරණය කරන්නේ? Okay? So in your teacher's guide, students, very specifically, businesses have been classified. Businesses have been classified based on 5 bases, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. These are the bases. These are the bases. Right? අපි වර්ගීකරණය කරන්න පදනම් කරගන්නා සාධක. The bases, right? Right? So very specific to each base, we would classify businesses in different ways. This is also, students, another important area in your syllabus. Okay, right? Highly tested in your MCQs. They will ask, for each base, they will ask how to classify the businesses. So you need to remember this whole tree diagram. Don't worry, right? I'll be teaching you everything, right? Okay, don't worry about it, right? Okay, fine. So are you all with me? Are you all with me? Can I get a small thumbs up before we start the classification? Okay, right? So you got to be strong and pumped, right? You got to show me that thirst, that you have a thirst to learn business studies. There you go, right? Everyone has that thirst, right? Right? Sending me hearts, right? Shining hearts. Those are not just hearts, but shining hearts. Shows me that, what do you call, the thirst, right? Okay, fine. Okay, so I hope that thirst is there for my physical students as well. Okay, so we'll learn about classification of business. Okay, right. So students, right, we'll take each base one by one. We'll not complicate things and take all the bases at once, right? Right. So if it is a big elephant, right, if you want to eat a big elephant, you cannot eat everything at once, no? Right? If you have a big elephant to eat, right, you cannot eat the entire elephant at once because you have a small mouth. So you got to eat part by part, right? You got to eat part by part. So likewise, we'll tackle classification of business by taking parts of bases one by one. Okay, right. Okay, so students, first we'll talk about how to classify businesses based on the nature of the production, right? Nature of the production. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේක සිංහලෙන් කියනවා ව්‍යාපාර වර්ගීකරණය කරනවා නිෂ්පාදනයේ ස්වභාවය අනුව. Right? නිෂ්පාදනයේ ස්වභාවය අනුව. I know all these concepts because Subhavaya. I know all these concepts because, students, I did my A-levels in Sinhala medium, no? Right? I did business studies in Sinhala. So I know all these concepts in Sinhala because I learned all these concepts in Sinhala, right? Okay. How are we going to classify businesses based on the nature of production, right? Now, nature of production means, students, what do you mean by that? In here, right? In here, we are first looking at, listen to me very carefully, right? Nature means, in here we are looking at the type of activity that you do when you are doing business. What type of activity that you do? In business, we do different activities, no? So first you're looking at what type of activity that you do, the nature of that activity. Based on that, we classify businesses. Right? Based on that, we classify businesses. So students, very specifically, when we are classifying businesses based on the nature of production, there are 3 categories of business that you can look into. Right? What are these 3 categories? What are these 3 categories? So you can just fill it, right? You can write it, right? Right? The first category is called primary, right? Primary, right? Primary production, right? First you can write primary, primary production, right? Right. Primary production, right? Right. The second category you can write secondary production, right? Secondary production. Don't worry, we will be discussing each of these types one by one, right? Right. And the third category you can write as tertiary, right? Tertiary, right? Don't misspell it. Tertiary. Tertiary. That is called tertiary. Tertiary production. Okay. Right. So how to classify businesses based on the nature of production, based on the type of production that you do, based on the type of activity that you involve? Primary production, secondary production, and tertiary production, right? Okay, so we'll look at each of these categories one by one. Take things forward. Okay, first let's talk about the first category coming under classifying businesses based on the nature of production is called what? Primary production. Primary production, right? Okay, right. So students, what do you mean by primary production? What do you mean by primary production, right? So let's first write the definition. Let's first write the definition and then we'll discuss. You can write. So I have given you a blank tab, right? Businesses, businesses, businesses which extract, businesses which extract, businesses which extract the natural resources, the natural resources in its own form, in its own form for production is known as primary production businesses. Businesses which extracts the natural resources in its own form of production for production is known as primary sector business organization. Right? Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Right. So students, what do you mean by that? Very simple. Very simple. Right. So students, there are business organizations. Listen to me very carefully. Okay. Right. Right. Listen to me very carefully. Then you don't have to worry. Okay. Right. Now there are some business organization students, right? As their business, what do? Is they extract, right? They extract the natural resources in its own form, where they're not going to make any changes, right? As an example, let's say you are a farmer. You are a farmer. Okay, right, right. So you have a plot of land. You have a plot of land, and you have grown vegetables. You have grown vegetables in that small plot of land. You have carrots, you have cabbage, you have tomatoes. Different types of vegetables are there, right? So what you do, right, on a daily basis, you put fertilizer to that, water, you nurture these plants, and then what? You get the harvest. You get the harvest, right? Isn't it natural, right? You extract the natural resources in its own format. You get the vegetables, you get the harvest, and then you take it to the market and you sell it. Did you make any changes? Did you get these vegetables and did you make a vegetable curry and sell it? No, right? You didn't make any changes. Right? You simply took the natural harvest of vegetables, you went to the market and you started selling it. These are called primary production. These are called primary production. Right? right? Or else just think that you are a fisherman, right? Just think that you are a fisherman, right? Right. So early in the morning, right? You go to the deep ocean, right? Right. You go to the deep ocean in a boat. You catch fish, right? And then you come to the what do you call? Then you come back, right? And then you go to the fish market and you sell the fish that you have caught in its own format. You don't make a fish devil or a fish curry or whatever. No, nothing. Just simply get the fish, catch the fish, come back, and then sell it in a small shop. Primary production. Or else you go to the woods, right? Karete gihilla, right? You cut trees, right? Then we call it as timber, no? Api gaswala kandang kapala, ne? Then you sell it, timber, right? You're into primary production, right? Right, right, right. Or else you, if you go to Ratnapura, if you go to areas like Ratnapura, what do? Right, right. Everyone would be like looking down and digging, right? Or else looking up something like this. What's that? Huh? Gems, no, right? They are into mining and quarrying. Patalha kenim kila right? So they extract all those minerals, natural minerals like gems, right? And then they get it, they clean it, and they sell it. Okay, right? Right. So students, primary production is that. Those are the businesses which involves in extracting natural resources in its own format. You're not going to make any changes. So that is your business. So those types of businesses are taken under primary production. So there's another sentence I have given. This involves extraction of natural resources. You extract, right? You extract that are found on or below the earth's surface. There you go. Right? If you want to find gems, manik wage දේවල් කරනවා නම් පතලක් කාලා පොළවේ යටට යන්න ඕනේ. You have to go to the, you have to drill deeper. Right? Right? Okay? Right? To the earth's surface, right? Below the earth's surface, you have to go and drill. And you have to get it. Okay? Right. So students, did you understand the concept of primary production? Did you understand the concept of primary production? Yes. Can I get a small feedback? Can I get a small feedback? Yes. All right. Super. So students, when it comes to primary production, there are two categories of businesses where we can pool the businesses in, right? So the first category you can write the businesses which are coming under agriculture. You can write with me under agriculture, right? Forestry, and then fishing, right? අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා කෘෂි වන දීවර, right? කෘෂි, right? කෘෂි වන දීවර, කෘෂි වන දීවර. Okay? Agriculture, forestry, and fishing. If you are into the business of agriculture or forestry or fishing, I gave you all examples also, right? Then you are coming under primary production. Okay, right? Then students, the second category of businesses which are coming under primary production is what? Mining. Can write with me, right? Mining, right? Mining and what? Mining and quarrying. Mining and quarrying. Quarrying. QUARR. Quarrying. Right? Mining and quarrying. Right? අපි කියනවා සිංහලෙන් කියනවා පතල් හා කැනීම් කියලා කියනවා. පතල් හා කැනීම්. පතල් හා කැනීම්. Okay? Right? You don't have to Remember the single term because you all are doing in English medium, right? Okay, right. Mining and quarrying, right? Patalha Kani. So, students, any business organization which falls onto these categories of businesses, then you will be taken as a business organization who is coming under primary production. Primary production. Very simply, your business is involved in extracting the natural resources in its own format. When you are not going to make any changes, right? You are not going to make any changes to the resources, but you get it directly. Okay, right. So these are called primary production. These are called primary production. Go ahead. Now just take 1 minute and just reconcile it. After that, we'll move on to the secondary production. After that, we'll move on to secondary production. After that, we'll move on to secondary production. If you all don't understand, please let me know, students. Okay, right? I don't want any of my students to go after the class with problems. Okay, so you all need to understand the concept very clearly. Very important. That's the most important thing. Okay, right. So since we don't have any questions, we'll move on to the next part. Okay, right. So let me give you some examples. I think you wrote some examples, right? Right. Okay. Right. Right. So you can write some examples for primary production, right? Okay. You can write farming. Just write some examples, right? Farming, in brackets, you can write growing rice, vegetables, fruits, close brackets. Farming. Then you can write the second example, fishing. Third example, you can write mining, like in brackets, you can write gold, iron, coal, gems. Ne? Another example, you can write forestry, no, cutting timber. Then you can write oil drilling. Now, if you go to the Gulf region, drilling oil, countries like Kuwait, all those countries, right? Oil drilling is also coming under what? Primary production. Okay, right, fine, good. Okay, secondary production, students. So what do you mean by this secondary production? Right? What do you mean by secondary production? Right? Very simple. Let's first read what is the definition. Right? Secondary production. Right? Secondary production. Let's read. So because I have given you the explanation in a simple manner. You just need to read it and understand. Raw materials obtained through primary industries. Primary industries means the businesses that are coming under primary production. So in secondary production, we are obtaining raw materials from primary industries and changed. Very important. The resources that you get from primary production is now changed and converted into finished goods and other productions. This is called secondary production. Now, students, can you remember in primary production, we didn't change the original format of the resources, right? Where you get the vegetable harvest and you just sell it to customers in its original format. You go to the deep ocean, you catch fish, you bring the fish to the land and you sell it to customers. You didn't make any changes, right? But if you take secondary production, the raw materials are being changed and converted into what? Into finished goods. Into finished goods, right? As examples, what can we say, right? As examples, right? So let's take cotton. No, you know cotton, ne pulung pulung, ne dano ne cotton, right? So you have cotton. No, you have cotton. You have cotton, right? This is cotton, right? Cotton in its original format. Cotton, right? Right. Now, cotton will be extracted through primary production, right? Cotton will be extracted through primary production. And then what happens? This cotton will be converted into what? This cotton will be converted into nice clothes. No, isn't it? Right? These will be converted into nice clothes. There you go, right? Nice shorts, right? Okay, right? There you go. Clothes converted into clothes. Right, right. This is called secondary production, where you get the original resources or raw materials from primary production, because we have businesses who are extracting them. So we get them from them, and then we convert these material into what? Finished goods. As an example, cotton were converted into clothes. Right? 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 Or else, you can take another example, right? Right? You take timber or wood, no, wood or timber, yeah, wood or timber, right? Right? You have these timber logs like this, no? You have these timber logs like this, right? The timber logs, no? You are like this, no? Right? Right? So these timber logs, these timber woods will be converted into what? Will be converted into what? Into tables and chairs. Into nice chairs, right? Nice tables, no, round tables, no, right? Rectangular shaped tables, right? Wood and timber is converted into what? Furniture. Furniture. Right? Right. So this is secondary production. This is secondary. So secondary production, the businesses which are in the secondary production, they involve in the conversion of these raw materials into finished goods. Of these raw materials into finished goods. Right? Okay. Understood, students, very simply? Can I get a small feedback? Did you understand the concept very clearly? Did you understand the concept very clearly? Yes, very good. That's very important. Okay, right. So when it comes to secondary production, students, just like primary production, there are two things that we need to look into. Or any business which is coming under secondary production could be categorized into two areas, right? So let me erase this part, right? Okay. Let me erase this part. Okay. Right. Right. So you can write, right? Manufacturing, manufacturing, manufacturing businesses, right? You have manufacturing industries, right? Or manufacturing businesses, whatever the word, that's fine, right? Manufacturing industries or businesses. And then you have construction businesses, right? Construction businesses or industries, right? So students, any business which is coming under secondary production or in the conversion of raw materials into finished goods, those types of businesses could be put into these two categories. That's a simple thing. Okay, right. Now, students, what are these manufacturing industries, right? Because students sometimes they will confuse these two as well. They think manufacturing and construction is the same, something general knowledge, right? Okay. So, students, what do you mean by manufacturing? What do you mean by manufacturing? Right? So, in manufacturing, students, very simply, what you do is, right? In manufacturing, what you do is simply you you make products, right? You make products, right? You make products by what? By assembling certain parts, right? By assembling certain parts, right? Assembling of certain parts, right? Okay. So that is called manufacturing industries. Now, if you take if you take a vehicle manufacturer like Toyota, what do? Right? In a factory, right? They assemble parts. No, in a vehicle, you have the tires, you have the chassis, then you have the engine. No, those are all manufactured separately, and then you assembling them. So those are called manufacturing industries. Those are called manufacturing industries. Okay, or else in a apparel factory, where they stitch clothes, right? You have buttons, you have zips, no, there's a stitching part, right? So at the end of the day, all those things are assembled together. Then you can get a full t-shirt or a short or whatever, right? So those are called manufacturing industry, students. So you can write in here in simple terms, you can write, right? For manufacturing industries, you can write a small phrase: making products in a factory. Making products in a factory by assembling parts, or processing material, making products in a factory by assembling parts or processing materials. Now in a tea factory, you process tea, no? You get the tea leaves and then you dry it and then you roll it. So it's a process, right? Okay, right? You don't assemble tea leaves, no, tea powder, right? You process it, right? There's a process, right? Then students, what are construction industries? Construction, of course, right? Constructing a building, right? You construct an apartment, right? You construct a house. You don't say that you manufacture a house, no, right? You construct, you say construct. So construction means, students, they are very specifically focused on what? They are very specifically focused on what, right? Building structures, right? Structures are built. You can write structures are built, right? Structures are built, right? Right? Structures are built. What are structures? No, your buildings, apartments, right? Then we have construction of highways. Those are all structures, right? Right? Structures are built. So in construction, we are very specifically focusing on constructing structures, right? So you can write some examples, right? Building houses, right? Building apartments. Then you can write constructing highways, bridges. Those are into construction, right? Okay, those are into construction, right? So students, in whatever way, if your business is coming under manufacturing or if your business is coming under construction, you'll be taken as a business organization which is coming into secondary production, where they get the raw materials from primary production and those raw materials are converted into finished goods, okay, right? So I think I told you all more examples, so you can write those examples in here, right? So I have given you a small space here. You can write the examples which I told you, right? So separately, I gave you examples for manufacturing and separate examples for construction, right? Separate examples for construction, right? So manufacturing, you can write biscuit factories making biscuits, tea factories making tea, right? Right. Apparel factories making clothes. Those are all into manufacturing, right? Right. Vehicle manufacturers making vehicles. Those are all secondary production. Okay, students. All right. Is everything clear up until secondary production? Students, can I get a small feedback whether everything is clear up until secondary production? Can I get a small feedback, a thumbs up or whatever? All right. Okay, super. Right. So students, now as of now, we discussed, right? As of now, we discussed the two categories, right? We discussed the two categories of how to classify businesses based on the nature of the production, right? Based on the nature of the production, right? Right? Here you go. Right? Based on the nature of the production. What are the three categories that we discussed? What are the three categories that we discussed? Based on the nature of the production, you have primary production, right? Primary production, where it'll focus on what? Agriculture, forestry, fishing. Then we discussed about mining and quarrying, the business coming under primary production, extracting the natural resource in its own format. And then we discussed secondary production, the second category of businesses coming under the nature of production base, where they use raw materials and convert them into finished goods. You have manufacturing industries and construction industries. And the third category is actually tertiary production. That, of course, students, we will be discussing next week, right? We will be discussing next week, right? So for the time being, that's enough for classifying businesses based on nature of the production. Okay, right. So before we wind up today's session, students, right? Did you all understand everything that we discussed? Did you all understand everything that we discussed? Is everything clear? I want everything to be crystal clear. All right.